What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm taking a look at some gap scheme runs, two gap scheme runs that kind of play into each other very well. The rules are pretty similar, essentially the same for the play side lineman. We're going to be talking about maybe a few adjustments and some things to take a look at. Uh, for when you're going between the two, what terms can be used interchangeably, what's the difference. So yeah, I'll hop right into it. I'm starting off with power. Talking about going power to the right here. What it means to me, and kind of how I, um, like to explain the technique a little bit more to some of the players. All right, so let's starting with power to the right. I just have a 4-2 box drawn up here, more of an over front. Got the three technique to the H back side. Talking a little bit more about this H-back. We considered it 20 personnel the past couple years. It really doesn't matter if you consider it 20 personnel or 12 personnel. If you look at him as a, just a Y off tight end, same thing to me pretty much. But whatever terminology you use to make sure you got the right 11 players on the field to run this play effectively. All right. So, what I emphasize to my players, it's the most important part, to kind of start off this play. It's all about this double team for me. All right. So, taking the play side tackle, every play side offensive lineman right there thinking down blocks, right? There's someone in the gap backside, right? You got to down block that. Three technique here, mandatory double team for me, right? So we're thinking guard and tackle. They're doubling all the way back to our, -1 or number two backer, depending on how you count your backers. So we have a point that we're pulling for. I'll get to that in a second. But right, first things first, we got to take care of this B gap defender, right? We're trying to get as much horizontal movement as possible on this guy to open up our B gap. All right. Over to the center, right? He's got a back block. He's got someone away from his gap. Down block. Definitely don't want to get beat over the top and letting this guy get a chance to fall back into the play, right? He's clearing this out. Probably taking a more of a lateral step or however you coach it to make sure that this kid isn't getting beat over the top and also not allowing penetration backside to run this down. All right. Backside guard here, right? So for me, power, the main difference is, you're going to get one backside puller as opposed to two backside pullers when you're running counter. All right. So, play first linebacker in the box. We're going to call that our point. We got our backside guard. He's pulling, tight to this double team, right? We teach our guards, we want to be super tight to this tackle's down block. For the purposes of drawing this, I'll go right in there, but ideally we're clearing out this three technique again, super tight to this double team. It's very important. Now the technique for this guard, traditionally what I like for traditional power is more of a square pull where he stand, or a shuffle pull where he stands square to the line of scrimmage, able to keep eyes on this point backer that he's pulling to, more of a tempo, not really in too much of a hurry, because of this guy here, and I'll explain that in a second. All right. So now for our backside tackle, he's going to hinge, right? We got to make sure we protect the B gap where this guard is disappearing from, right? So he's probably taking a couple power steps or, leading with his post foot, maybe one or two steps down here to secure the B gap. In this case, since you got more of a 2-eye right here, he's most likely an A gap player, but you want to make sure he's not looping back over the top. If he is, you got to keep eyes there, or even if this will linebacker, if he's blitzing through this B gap, he's got to have eyes up to see that. All right. So for our hinge step, he's getting all the way down to our B gap, and then he can hinge back out or kick back out to our end man on the line of scrimmage. All right. Now over to this H back. He's got a pretty important job here as well, right? Because he's trying to dig out this end man on the line of scrimmage play side. All right. So, hook block, J block, whatever you want to call it, for him to scoop and get inside leverage on this end man on the line of scrimmage. Definitely doesn't want to get beat across his face, making sure we're opening this B gap for a nice lane for our back to run through. All right. Um, another thing with this, if you feel like this defensive end is coached really well, maybe he's getting, very difficult time for our guards to clear this out. Main thing going back to this shuffle pull, the reason we're square is also that he's able to double bump this end man of the line of scrimmage if need be, right? So that just means he's tempoing it up, right? He's prepared to insert on his way to his Mike linebacker or his point backer, where you can go same foot, same shoulder, right? Give some help to this H-back to clear out this end man of line of scrimmage before getting vertical up to his assignment. All right. So yeah, a couple other variations, might be instead of inserting or, getting inside leverage on this defensive end, maybe you just want to read them. All right, so it's still power to me, just turns it into a power read if you go ahead and arc release this H back out in space. Right, so now you can do a couple of different things with your B back here, right? Either you can go more of a bash, kind of a mesh, and turn this into power read with your quarterback. And, now we fix his alignment. Right, let's say he's maybe in more of an up position, right? You can go bash read here, right? If this defensive end wants to, play outside, now your quarterback, he's running the power right in between the tackles. All right. Another thing, you could do, pretty easy adjustment that's not changing anything for the guys up front. Right. If you go jet read, now you can have your back to the play side, get an extra blocker out in space. And now you got your slot. He's coming into jet motion. And now you run, pretty much the exact same read here where your quarterback has the ability to keep and run the power himself, or he's going to give the jet. All right, so now let's talk about counter. All right, so for me, really counter is the exact same thing for your play side lineman, right? And that's what I like about the simplicity of teaching this play. You don't really have to change your rules too much. So let's start again with our play side tackle. Again, counter to the right. He's going to down block. He's thinking, anything in this B gap all the way to your backside linebacker. Same box I got here, 4-2 box, just flipped. So it's now I have the H back here. We're going to put the through technique to the left. Play side tackle, he's thinking he's going to be thin as possible, right? He wants to be thin just in case this play side defensive tackle is looping back to the B gap. So if nothing shows in his B gap, he can just continue his path all the way to this backside linebacker. All right, and then same thing for your guard here. He's down blocking. He doesn't want to get, beat over the top. He's making sure he's coming down hard. You want to clear out this 2-eye or one technique, whatever this defensive lineman is. All right. So now for our center, right? For simplicity purposes, I'll keep it. He's going to back block, anything in his gap. All right. In this case, he's all the way back to this 3 technique. All right. So there's a couple adjustments you could probably make where, depending on the team that you coach, if you feel like this guard, would have a better angle or has better leverage to block this 3 technique, you could make it an automatic adjustment, or maybe it's a call that these guys are making amongst themselves. If you got that much trust in your guys, well, now you could have your guard back block this 3 technique, and you get your center out as your first puller. All right, but for this case, for this example, I'll just have my center. He's back blocking this tackle. Same thing. Don't want to get beat over the top. You also don't want to give up penetration here. That's going to knock your pullers off their path. All right. So here for the guard, right? His responsibility. He's going to be the first puller out. So, as opposed to power, where he's going to be wrapping for the point. In this scenario, right, when you're running counter, it's important for your backside guard to know now he's the kick out guy, right? So he's going, tight as possible. Again, he doesn't want to get, beat, across his face, right? He's trying to go get his far shoulder on this defender's near shoulder, make sure that his hat placement, right, his helmet is going to be winning this B gap. All right. So worst case scenario is you're getting this guy, this defensive end, to cross your face, and now he's getting back into the path or the run lanes that we're trying to open up. All right. Backside again, backside tackle, a couple different things. You could install this as 2 separate plays or just a tag or an adjustment to your existing counter play, right? But you can go GT counter or GH counter. GT, obviously guard and tackle. GH is going to stand for guard and H-back, or whatever you call your sniffer, Y off tight end, etc. All right. So now, first guard, he's kicking out. If you're going GT, right, where you have this tackle pull through for your point, right, you want to make sure that if you're in a scenario where you got your GT action going, you probably want to read this guy, right, this backside end, right. It may be a tough ask for this H-back to get inside and cut this defensive end off, especially without interfering with the pull of this tackle. So just best case to usually read it. I teach it as a backside read for our quarterbacks when we're running GT. If you're running GH, right, just switching responsibilities. Now your H-back is the one who is going to be pulling in, inserting, wrapping for your point, your play side linebacker. All right, so now if you're going GH, similar to our power play, right, your tackle has a hinge step. Probably a little bit more important for this hinge since you got a B-gap threat already, right? So with this hinge step, again, he's going to take a couple powers, right? He's going to be leading with his post foot. In college, we called it a tack, right? Tackle and center, because your tackle and center are, not necessarily a combo, right? But you're getting some help, right? He's stand square again, leading with that post foot, stabbing with his right hand. Just to make this back block a little bit easier for your center. And then he's working this hinge back to the end man of the line of scrimmage. All right. So here, with our counter, you could make the backfield action whatever you like. If you even want to, have this H-back take a jab step out before he's getting into it, whatever timing works for you, in your offense, as long as you got 2 pullers, they know who's going to be the kick guy, who's going to be the wrap guy. Your play side down blocks are secure, and it's really up to you. If you're in 10 personnel, maybe I'll make a separate video about dart. Very similar concept. Still gap scheme to me, but now it's essentially a way to run a counter out of 10 personnel, where now you're keeping your guard in, your tackle is the one pulling for point. Maybe you just have 2 base blocks, play side. But really, it's whatever you want to do to be creative in your offense to keep the defense guessing in terms of your formations, footwork, technique. All that stuff is going to come into play when you're installing these 2 particular plays or these 2 concepts. So that's all I got for today. Feel free to comment, any adjustments that I might have not mentioned, or anything you just think is pretty cool about the gap scheme world and how power and counter can play off of one another.